This documentary contains graphic descriptions of real crimes, violence, and human suffering. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. In South Los Angeles, death was never unusual. What was unusual was who it belonged to. By the mid-1980s, entire neighborhoods were collapsing under the weight of poverty, addiction, and neglect. Crack cocaine moved through the city like wildfire. Sirens were constant. Violence was routine. And for many residents, survival was a daily calculation. Police departments were overwhelmed. Community trust eroded. And slowly, almost invisibly, certain lives stopped being prioritized. It was in this environment that women began disappearing. Not all at once, not dramatically. They vanished quietly, one by one, from sidewalks, alleys, and street corners most people avoided even in daylight. Some were reported missing, many were not. And when bodies were found, they were rarely treated as emergencies. They were framed as inevitabilities. Another overdose, another act of street violence, another file closed without urgency. What no one realized at first was that these deaths were connected. The first confirmed murders, attributed to what would later be called the Grim Sleeper, occurred in the mid-1980s. Women were found shot and dumped in public spaces, behind abandoned buildings, near dumpsters, in alleys that blended seamlessly into the urban decay of South Los Angeles. There were no dramatic crime scenes, no ritualistic displays, no attempts to shock the public. The bodies were placed casually, as if they were meant to be found, but not examined too closely. Each victim was a woman already living on the margins of society. Black women, poor women, women battling addiction, women whose disappearances did not prompt immediate searches or press coverage. When detectives arrived, the cases were often handled in isolation. Different precincts, different investigators, different priorities. No one was looking at the whole picture, and that blind spot mattered. The weapon was consistent, a small caliber handgun. The violence was efficient, execution-style shots often to the chest. There was no evidence of struggle at the dump sites, no signs of panic, which meant the violence didn't begin there. These women had trusted someone. That detail alone should have set off alarms. But in the context of South Los Angeles at the time, it didn't. Instead, each death was absorbed into the background noise of a city already overwhelmed by crime. Another statistic, another line item. No press conference announced a serial killer might be operating. No task force was immediately assembled. And without meaning to, the system sent a message, not just to the public, but to the killer himself. It said, "You can keep going. Serial killers do not need genius to succeed. They need opportunity. And opportunity is created when victims are not counted equally." For decades, Los Angeles was known for violence. But it was a very specific kind of violence. In the public imagination and in law enforcement priorities. Crime in South Los Angeles was defined by gangs, drive-by shootings, territory disputes, retaliation killings, Bloods, Crips. That was the narrative. So when black women were found dead in alleys or behind abandoned buildings, assumptions followed almost automatically. Gang-related, drug-related, personal disputes gone wrong. The city had seen that story thousands of times. What Los Angeles was not known for was an African-American serial killer. The idea didn't fit the template. Serial killers, in the public mind, looked a certain way. They came from somewhere else. They targeted differently. They sought attention. But this killer didn't taunt police. He didn't leave symbols. He didn't communicate. he operated quietly, inside a city already overwhelmed by violence. And because of that, his crimes blended in. Murders that should have raised alarms were absorbed into statistics. Patterns that should have triggered coordination were dismissed as coincidence. The city was looking for chaos. What it failed to recognize was intention. This wasn't a war between groups. It was a one-man campaign. And while Los Angeles focused on the crimes it knew how to explain, a different kind of killer was operating in plain sight. Lonnie Franklin Jr. did not stalk randomly. He watched. He learned routines. He observed vulnerabilities. He approached women who were unlikely to be reported missing quickly, or at all. Women already abandoned by systems meant to protect them. He offered rides. He offered drugs. He offered safety. He appeared calm, normal, unremarkable. Once alone, the violence was swift. There was no chaos, no emotional frenzy, just control. Franklin did not leave a traditional serial killer signature. No ritual, no symbols, no messages. What he left was absence. And that absence delayed recognition for decades. After killing, Franklin went home. He lived on West 81st Street. He worked as a sanitation truck mechanic for the city of Los Angeles. He fixed garbage trucks, vehicles designed to haul away what society no longer wanted. He attended family gatherings, barbecues, neighborhood events. Neighbors described him as quiet, polite, forgettable. He didn't isolate himself. He didn't draw attention. He blended perfectly. While investigators searched for a monster, the monster was hiding in plain sight. Franklin was even interviewed by police years earlier. Calm, cooperative. He answered questions. And then he walked out. When police finally searched Franklin's home decades later, they found something worse than weapons. They found documentation. Hundreds of photographs. Women posed. Women unconscious. Women photographed without consent. Same room, same lighting, same control. This wasn't memory. It was ownership. These photographs were not necessary to kill. They were psychological. They were his true signature, hidden from the world. After 1988, the killings appeared to stop. 14 years passed. Detectives believed the killer was gone. They were wrong. Franklin didn't stop. He waited. In 2002, a woman was shot and left for dead. She survived. For the first time, the grim sleeper left behind something he never had before. A witness. She described a calm man, non-threatening, normal. Her survival confirmed the killer was still active. But survival did not equal justice. The system still lacked the tools to name him. And so he continued. By the late 2000s, science changed the rules. Investigators turned to familial DNA, a controversial method. Instead of matching a suspect directly, they searched for relatives. The DNA pointed to Franklin's son. Police followed quietly. They waited. When discarded items were collected, the match was undeniable. After decades of silence, the evidence finally spoke. On July 7th, 2010, the grim sleeper finally had a name. This time, Lonnie Franklin Jr. was not being asked to help police. He was being confronted by them. Years earlier, Franklin had sat across from detectives and walked away. This interview was different. The detectives were no longer searching. They were confirming. Franklin did not react with anger or denial. He did not confess. He withdrew. As investigators laid out the evidence, the DNA, the photographs, the timeline, Franklin listened. He asked few questions. He offered nothing. Silence became his final defense. When detectives mentioned the surviving victim, Franklin showed no visible reaction, no denial, no acknowledgement. The interview revealed something critical. Franklin was never driven by notoriety. He was driven by invisibility. Even in custody, he resisted becoming a story. He gave no explanations, no motive, no remorse, because the evidence no longer required his voice. For the first time in decades, Franklin did not leave the room and go home. In 2016, Lonnie Franklin Jr. was convicted of 10 murders and 1 attempted murder. Prosecutors believe the true number may never be known. He was sentenced to death. In 2020, he died in prison of natural causes. This case was never just about one man. It was about who gets searched for, who gets believed, who gets remembered. The grim sleeper did not succeed because he was brilliant. He succeeded because his victims were ignored. Justice came late. For many, it never came at all. The grim sleeper didn't disappear. He was allowed to continue.